Support for Destination Michigan is provided by the CMU Bookstore. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, maroon and gold memories, and an official outfitter of Adidas apparel at the Central Michigan University-owned and operated CMU Bookstore. Online shopping 7 days a week at cmubookstore.com. The CMU Bookstore, online at cmubookstore.com, on campus in the University Center, and game day locations at Kelly Short Stadium and the CMU Events Center.
Hi and welcome to Destination Michigan, where we explore the beauty, creativity, and destinations in our Great Lakes state. Tonight we're going to meet some outstanding Michiganders, and we'll travel across the Mitten to visit the communities that make Michigan unique. Now this episode is a special edition, as we look back to some of our favorite people and places that we've showcased in Season 6. So here's a glimpse of tonight's travels on Destination Michigan. Coming up, we're going on an exclusive excursion of Earl Young's mushroom houses in Charlevoix.
Next, I'll show you why no visit to Gaylord is complete without a stop to the Alpine Chocolat Haus.
Next, we're heading north to McMillan to view the woods in the wintertime in one of the best possible ways, with help from sled dogs like Snickers.
Then we get swept up in curling and we'll show you why it rocks.
This week finds me in Emmet County, one of my favorite places, involved in something called Cowboy Action Shooting.
Tonight, our journey commences in Charlevoix, where visitors are constantly rubbernecking to see homes that look like they're straight out of a storybook. Earl Young was a born and raised Michigander who built these mushroom homes decades ago out of stone, leaving his legacy behind in this northern Michigan town. Past the park, the bridge, and the harbor, off the beaten path, we head to the back roads of Charlevoix that are filled with well-framed and slightly whimsical structures with a signature style. These mushroom houses, as they're affectionately known as, attract people from all over, oogling and staring at the famous stone homes built by Earl A. Young.
I think the whole community has embraced Earl's love of rocks. It may even say Earl Young under rock hound in the dictionary, because he never found a rock he did not love.
In the late 1920s, Earl Young began to build his first 10 stone houses, naming the area Boulder Park. Over the next several decades, he continued to leave his legacy and talents along the streets of Charlevoix. Thanks to the Charlevoix Historical Society, we got an exclusive Earl Young tour.
This is where he really started his residential community. He would sell you a lot for $100, and his ads even said it's cheaper than rent. And he was probably right at that time, it was. Then he ventured on to the Triangle area, where we have the half house and the mushroom house, and then into some commercial work as well through the 50s and the early 60s. Beautiful Weather Vane Terrace, the Weather Vane Restaurant and the Lodge Hotel.
You'll see his work all over town, in businesses and in privately owned homes. He wasn't actually a trained architect, but that didn't stop him from creating 31 structures, each with their own artistic spirit.
Each home very, very different. We have one that we call the Pagoda House, which has a bit of an Asian flair to it. We have one that we call the Owl House because of its very unique windows. We have the Half House, which is just that. When he ran out of room, he stopped and put up a wall. There is the Mushroom House, which gets its name right from its roofline. And so each one of them is so very unique and very, very special. From the open rafter tails to the unique windows. Some are Gothic, some are very playful. Lots of hidden doorways. Just have a wonderful, unique feel to each home.
These unique houses are individually owned. They're not open to the public to tour the insides or the grounds. Each property is private. So it's important for spectators to be respectful as they walk, bike, or drive around town to tour them, and of course, see the different types of Michigan rocks they're made of. You'll see local limestone, fieldstone, glacial boulders, slab Onaway stone, and red sandstone too on his buildings.
Earl had a unique vision. He could look at a stone and he knew immediately if it had potential or if it didn't.
Now, while the Historical Society offers some guided group tours, new in 2015, they'll have a booklet for sightseers to follow along with for self-guided tours. Details throughout describe the homes that range from as small as 500 square feet up to the largest one, the Sucher House.
Earl did not necessarily make floor plans. And the largest home, which is about 2,300 square feet, sits on the lake shore. When he walked the property with Mr. Sucher, 1947, Mr. Sucher was the acting CEO of Speedway 79. But when Earl walked the property with Mr. Sucher, he said, "From here, I want you to see 1/3 sky, 1/3 water, and 1/3 lawn, and the fireplace will go behind me." That's how he worked. He knew what he wanted. He could visualize it. He had it up here, and then it was up to his wife usually to put it on paper for him. But Mr. Sucher really took a bit of a leap of faith. And you can see, by allowing Earl free rein, he created just a true masterpiece in this beautiful home with the open rafter tails, the 3-part whimsical chimney, the lazy eyebrow dormer, and the way it sits beautifully on the shoreline. It really does reflect everything that he hoped it would. It is quite a dandy.
And Mr. Sucher wasn't the only original homeowner who took a chance on Earl's creative ways.
Anyone who commissioned an Earl Young house was committing an act of faith because they didn't know what they were getting until they got it. There is no cookie-cutterism about Earl Young's buildings at all. Each one is designed to fit on the lot for which it was destined to be. And that was his philosophy. Do not alter the lot unless you absolutely have to. The house has to go on it as it is.
I think it's amazing. These buildings have been here since the early 20s, and yet even today they make people ooh and ah and just laugh out loud. And that's what I think is so compelling about these houses. They're so unique, each one in its own way. They go from kind of early basic to very whimsical, and they are a very, very special legacy for Charlevoix.
There is a magic about the Earl Young houses. There is always one, maybe 2 or 3 distinguishing features about it that make you stop, look, and wonder. Where does this imagination come from? This creativity, this ability to visualize what you want and have it still so powerful, so delicate, so whimsical, over half a century after he built them. The man was astonishing in his imaginative abilities to create a unique living space.
So next time you're visiting Charlevoix, even if it's not to look at Earl Young's mushroom houses, take an extra look around. The story goes that Earl used to leave rocks in random places around town because he felt every place could be embellished with a big boulder on it. So even now, you'll not only find stones on buildings, but also spread across the city. To contact the Charlevoix Historical Society about more Earl Young material, feel free to visit their website. Now we travel to another northern Michigan community where among the Alpine shops and stores right in the middle of town, there's a place in Gaylord that's become a must-stop for any chocolate addict. Destination Michigan's Stephanie Mills got a taste of what brings people to the Alpine Chocolat Haus time and time again.
Today we're visiting the Alpine Chocolat Haus in Gaylord to find out how they make their famous chocolate-covered potato chips and so much more.
It's all made right here on the premise. We've been here for 30 years. This is stuff that's made right here in the store, and I think that's what people appreciate that. This is not something you're going to find very many places.
Got a sweet tooth? The Alpine Chocolat Haus can fill it. They've been a chocolate lover's paradise in Gaylord since 1985.
And I always liked Gaylord. I just thought Gaylord was a neat community, and I've always wanted to own my own store. Well, when we came down here, there was a candy store just down the street a little ways, a chocolate shop, and it was up for sale. So I looked into it, ended up obviously buying it. Give it a shot of chocolate.
Okay. Owner Bruce Brown, also known as Der Chocolate Meister, is a man with an infectious laugh and a super sweet personality.
Now you're going to give it 2 shots of chocolate.
That's a lot of chocolate. Opening his own business was a dream come true. But while the Alpine Chocolat Haus has become a destination for homemade chocolate treats and candies, it didn't quite start out that way.
When we first started, people would come up from downstate and ask if we had, we make our own chocolate. And we said we never did. They would say, so let me get this right. I drive from Detroit to come to Gaylord to buy chocolate from Detroit. So we could see that basically the writing on the wall. And then it was in March or April of '86 that I met a lady, and she took me under her wing, she taught me stuff, and she showed me how to make chocolates. And that's actually when we started.
Today, they make about 150 different items, plus many bag treats. I got in on the action in the kitchen above the flagship store. What do you think, Bruce? Do you think I have a career here in making chocolate-covered potato chips?
You could do it. You're doing a good job. This is our #1 seller.
From making their famous chocolate-covered potato chips, scooping peanut butter, to dipping these ginormous apples into bubbling hot caramel sauce, there is a whole lot of sweetness up here when you enter the stairway to heaven.
But we always try to come up with new ideas. We have done stuff like chocolate-covered bacon, we'll do chocolate-covered grapes, we did chocolate-covered jalapenos, and that was really, really good. We come up with sometimes some really cool items that we make, and some stuff never sees the sales floor. So it's a fun business.
I'm the manager, so I get here at 7:30 in the morning. I get the machines up and running for all the ladies. We start about 8 o'clock, all the other ladies show up. We run chips, we run caramel corn, drizzled corn, apples. There's like at least 8 different kinds of apples that we do.
As the Alpine Chocolate House's popularity rose, Bruce began branching out. Today he has a shop in his former hometown, Sault Ste. Marie, one in Boyne City, and his newest in Plymouth. All are located within the downtown areas, something Bruce prides himself in.
It's been 30 years, and I can't wait to get up in the morning and go to work. I just love coming here. I have a great staff. I have some great people that are really devoted to the business, and that just means a lot right there.
30 years in the chocolate biz. Not bad for a guy who didn't even know how to cook before owning his own store.
You know, the best part about owning a chocolate shop are the people coming in and purchasing the candies that you make, and they say how much they really like them, how they love them, and they keep coming back to buy.
You can find more information on the Alpine Chocolate Haus by checking out their website. Well, we're all familiar with the Iditarod, an approximately 1,000-mile sled dog race across Alaska. Michigander Ed Steelstra has finished that race 7 times, and along with his wife Tasha, they own Nature's Kennel Sled Dog Adventures, where they take guests on tours. We spent the afternoon with Tasha and their team of guides and sled dogs at their kennel north of the Mackinac Bridge in McMillan. Do you dream of being a musher, of driving a sled dog team through trails covered with freshly fallen snow, cozy under your winter gear with a slight breeze on your face, enjoying the sounds of nature and maybe a bark or two? Well, that dream can come true with a tour from Nature's Kennel Sled Dog Adventures. 135 Alaskan Huskies await your arrival, ready to run, and ready to take you on an experience you'll never forget.
Most people want to learn to drive their own team. I mean, it's kind of on a bucket list thing. Children have to be 10 years old to drive their own team, all the way up to, I've had my oldest client driving their own team was 78. If people aren't comfortable driving their own, of course they can take a ride in the sled, which we certainly do that, and we call those like riders and drivers.
Yes, you heard that right. You can drive your own team or be a rider in a sled at Nature's Kennel. They offer half-day trips, full-day trips, and overnight trips for guests too, right from their kennel in the UP town of McMillan.
Our half-day trip is 10-mile trail. Our full-day trip is 20 miles, and then our overnight trip, they do 20 miles each day. They do 20 miles to camp, and then we have a big bonfire, we have dinner at camp, breakfast at camp. The dogs stay with the guests at camp, so they kind of get the experience of feeding and caring for the dogs. And then they do 20 miles out and are done around noon the next day. It is a heated winter tent. It's winter camping with a guide and in a guided situation. And they can tell their friends they winter camped in the UP. So that just kind of adds a new dimension, but those are pretty popular trips as well. They're just a one-night camp.
While they tend to keep their trips pretty personal and small at Nature's Kennel, they have larger groups visit as well, as they can accommodate about 15 people at one time on the trails.
We groom and maintain all of our own trails. We have 50 acres of land, but the majority of what we run on is state of Michigan property, and we upkeep and groom those trails. Just pretty scenic and wooded trails. People get an off-road experience through the Upper Peninsula. I mean, pretty typical topography of what's here in the UP. A little bit of rolling, gentle hills, deep snow. We get a tremendous amount of snow here, so snow is never an issue. We run trips from early December through mid-April.
And the trips are guided by owners Ed or Tasha Steelstra, or by one of their guides who have traveled from around the state, country, and world to help out.
This year, one is from New Zealand, one girl from Ohio, Virginia, and Michigan. And that's pretty typical. Our staff is pretty diverse. We have a few college interns that come through each year as well, so I usually have an intern each part of the season. And so, yeah, kind of a lot of hands-on for a lot of dogs.
Now, on to the details about these super socialized sled dogs, because it's really the help from them that allows guests to view the woods in the wintertime in one of the best possible ways.
They are all Alaskan Huskies, which is not a registered purebred breed. It's a recognized breed. If you say we have Alaskan Huskies, people know what that is. Most people come here expecting to see a Siberian or a Malamute, great big fluffy dog. Those are registered breed dogs. There's very few purebred Siberian kennels, what I would consider competitive racing or even touring kennels. The dogs are they're a little slower, a little more stubborn, a little harder to train. We can let all of our dogs run loose when they get done running and they don't run away. Alaskan Huskies are a little more people-oriented, love to know what's going on, love to be in each other's business, but they just won't take off. At about 8 months old, we put a puppy in the team with a small team with adults and they know how to pull. There's no teaching we have to do for them to teach them to pull. You can kind of hear them. They act as a pack, they sing like a pack. They're very pack-oriented dogs. They howl and sing when it's close to dinner time and when they hear something in the woods.
Before Nature's Kennel Sled Dog Adventures, Tasha was a teacher. Using her educational background and love for mushing, she travels to schools and visits community organizations when there isn't snow in Michigan to teach the importance of teamwork and respect through sled dogs' perspectives.
Kids are fascinated by dogs. They love the sled dogs. We take a couple of them into the school, so we instantly have their attention. And it's a pretty interactive presentation that we do. And we do those all over the country. So we talk about being safe and kind and responsible, not only in the classroom, but also when working with 135 sled dogs and how that looks and works.
And the Nature's Kennel team sure does take great care of their dogs. Both Ed and Tasha have won numerous humanitarian awards for the excellent care they provide the pups.
We like to think that we're taking the best care of them we can because they are truly our employees and our pets and part of the family. Yeah. Around 7, 8 years old, I'm really starting to look at how long the dog has to be able to be running at the level we want them, even if it's on tours. We're asking a lot of the dogs. They're running 5 or 6, 7 days a week in the wintertime. If I notice they're just not as excited to run anymore, then I retire them into family homes. They make great family pets. They house train really easily. So we've got retired dogs that live all over the country. And there's some younger ones who are not this, they haven't quite figured out to be a sled dog, and they also move to family homes as well. They love and live to run, yes.
To guide the dogs on their runs through the trails, drivers say G to turn right, haw to turn left, easy to slow down, and whoa to stop. But the one word you won't hear on a tour or at a race is mush.
Mushers never say mush, so we go mushing. You could be a musher, but you never say mush. We say let's go or a hike, hup, something a little quicker. Yeah, if you go to a race and say mush, people are going to laugh at you.
Nature's Kennel Sled Dog Adventures provides boots and mittens at no extra costs to keep their guests comfortable in the cold. And although most of their tours are out of their kennel in McMillan, where there's often snow, they do rides at Boyne Highlands Resort and Tequamanon Falls State Park too. To learn more, their website is natureskennel.com. Now, curling didn't become an official Olympic sport until the 1998 Winter Games, but it became a hit in places like Midland long before curlers won medals. Our Stephanie Mills got a crash course in the sport, and as you'll see, it's a lot harder than it looks.
More and more people are getting into curling. It's a really fun sport, and it's easy to see why.
I curl because it's a lot of fun. It's good exercise. It's a good way to socialize with friends.
Fun. It's a word you're going to hear a lot over the next few minutes as we take you inside the awesome world of curling here in Midland, home to one of just 3 curling clubs in the state.
Curling's been here for, I think we're at 52 years. Started back in the 60s. It was brought to Midland by some Dow Chemical scientists who were also Canadians. And they ended up kind of starting it as an outdoor rink.
Over the years, the original club grew, but it wasn't until 2008 when this facility was built, thanks in part to the community center, that things really took off for the Midland Curling Club.
We were a club of anywhere from 100 to 150 members for a lot of those 50 years, and now we've gone from 100 and some odd to almost 300 members just in the last 6 years.
Today, members young and old aren't afraid to get swept up in the sport. As long as you're big enough to pick up the 42-pound rock, you're good to go.
It's a game that's easy to learn, but like my dad always says, it's a game that's very hard to master. So you spend a lifetime, you learn it pretty quickly, but then you spend the rest of your life trying to master all the nuances and the techniques and everything.
Curling is a lot like shuffleboard, but on ice, of course. 2 teams consisting of 4 players take turns sliding the large granite rocks across the ice toward the circular pattern on the other end called the house. The sweepers try and steer the rock in a direction. Rocks closest to the center of the circle get the most points.
It's mostly just dedication. The movement itself is not incredibly intricate or detailed. You need a little bit of balance, but you can develop balance. And you need an instructor to help somebody else, and then you just need to throw rocks.
Easy enough, right? After Coach Graves talked me through the basics like putting my left foot on the slider, crouching down to slide off, it was time to see how coordinated I was in getting the rock down this perfectly flat ice.
It's just a matter of where are you trying to get the rock.
A few more lessons, and I may actually land a rock in the right house. Sweeping is also no easy feat. My triceps were feeling it the next day, and yet I could really see myself getting into this sport. It's a lot of fun and a really good workout. Players walk an average of 3 miles per game.
It's a social game. It really is. You have a lot of interaction with a lot of great people. I have never met a curler I did not like. It just seems to brings out the best of people, this sport.
The Midland Curling Club has many different leagues, including one for kids and teenagers. They travel all over, including into Canada. But you don't need to be young to do the sport. It really is fun for anyone.
It's a game that you can do for your entire life. The people that it attracts are just great people. It doesn't matter where you go. If you can find a curling club, go in a curling club and you'll be welcome. They're just really good people. They're there for the right reasons and they're there to have fun. You get out, you enjoy the game, you enjoy the competition. Everybody congratulates each other's good shots. So the courtesy in the game is similar to golf, another Scottish game. So it makes it fun for everybody.
The Midland Curling Club's website is a great source of information if you want to find out more about the sport or want to join one of their leagues. Now our final stop tonight is with Bob Garner. We all know how much he loves the outdoors and smell of gun smoke in the air, and his visit to Harbor Springs tonight is no exception. Here's Bob Garner at the Harbor Springs Outdoors Club.
This week finds me in Emmet County, one of my favorite places, involved in something called Cowboy Action Shooting. They're a group of shooters who work tirelessly to promote and enjoy our history of the Old West. Folks who watch Gunsmoke and Bonanza through the 50s and 60s on television. Folks like me who as kids went to see every Western every time they could and wore their cowboy hats and strapped on their cap guns for the Saturday matinee. This group keeps that history alive by dressing in clothes of the period and using six guns and rifles and shotguns reminiscent of the Old West. Tom Bailey, Executive Director of the Little Traverse Conservancy, is also known as North Side Ranger, and he talked with this old sodbuster about this club and how much fun they have. Can you tell me about this Harbor Springs group of guys? I mean, you're all over Emmet County, I suppose, but they pretty much identify with Harbor Springs.
Sure, it's the Harbor Springs Outdoors Club, and they were kind enough to set aside a piece of their club property for us to try Cowboy Action Shooting. I'm kind of a latecomer to it, really. I didn't set it up, but I was involved to start with and enjoy coming out once in a while, not as often as these guys who are more dedicated. It's a diverse bunch of guys, and a lot of them do other serious shooting. There are serious skeet shooters and rifle shooters, competitive shooters, but sometimes we like to get together and get the single action pistols and the lever guns out and just have fun.
So for each shoot, they set up scenarios. Now do you actually walk into a saloon and look for somebody cheating at poker or something, or what do you do, Tom?
At some of the big shoots you do. We're a little more low-key here at the Harbor Springs Outdoor Club about it, but at some of the sanctioned shoots and the big shoots, it gets to be some really fancy scenarios. And of course, there's a competitive element to it. It is a timed event. A lot of times we don't even use a clock here because we just like to shoot, but sometimes when you burst through the saloon doors, that's what starts the clock with your shooting, and you shoot normally 2 pistols, a rifle, and a shotgun, and you're trying to shoot as fast as you can.
And you're shooting metal plates for the most part.
Right.
And how much fun is this for everyone? Well, even Courtney Jerome got involved in it, and did she shoot well? That's beautiful, Court.
That deserves a yeehaw! Yeah!
There's something about stepping into the days of the old Lone Ranger and Matt Dillon and
there sure is.
Ponderosa and Bonanza and all that stuff.
And the feel of that gun leather around your hips, it's fun.
You feel like John Wayne sometimes?
Well, I don't know about John Wayne, but it feels pretty good.
If you'd like to join the Cowboys at the club like we did, their contact information is at harborspringsOutdoorsClub.com. Well, thanks for joining us tonight on Destination Michigan. We hope you'll tune in again and learn more about the state we all love to call home.